welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me today. Today I have a very special guest, Mr. Nader Sabry, and Nader and I go back a long way. He's a gentleman I admire very, very much as an entrepreneur, a businessman, and a great mind, and a visionary. So thank you very much. I look forward to having this fireside chat with you over the next hour or so. And welcome to our little home.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I know we haven't caught up in a while. You're just giving me a bit of headlines, but I can't wait to hear your story. And your story is something that from day one I could have guessed, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. No surprises on my side.
The point is that I was like dazzled in the headlights when I arrived. For people who don't know, I came here with nothing 10 years ago. And when I met you, I half didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Because you were so smart, and you are so smart,
Thank you.
We're not as connected as we were before. But I was trying to earn a living, I was trying to pay the bills, I was trying to look good to you, to be on the same level of peer group as yourself, so you could accept me. And honestly, from my heart, I get emotional. And you're a gentleman, and you knew that I had nothing, and you brought me in, you looked after me, and you advised me, you supported me. So for the rest of my life, I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really mean this.
Thank you.
And I had the pleasure of connecting with you on LinkedIn, because you're doing these wonderful posts. And we connected on WhatsApp, and I saw a picture of your beautiful son. How old is he now?
He's 9.
Yeah,
because 9.5.
When we met, he was just born.
Yeah, I know.
And it's just gone in a heartbeat, hasn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah, I can't believe it, because I was just saying that I think he was like 2 or 3 years old. That's what I felt last time. But it was 10 years ago. Man.
He was just a few months. I remember you pushing the pram,
really?
and he didn't walk. He wasn't walking.
Oh gosh!
And he's beautiful. He's a handsome young man. So all credit and congratulations.
Thank you.
So when we met 9-10 years ago, you were in the business of developing a prayer mat.
Yes.
So can you tell us, because I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
There's how many Muslims on the planet?
Well, the estimates range between 1.6 to 1.8 billion. Regardless of which one of the two numbers you use, they're huge, right?
Yes.
And we discovered through about 5 years of R&D. So when you met me, I think I was at the end of my cycle of R&D.
You were going to China a lot those days.
Exactly. So we were moving from pre-production straight into commercialization. I think that's when you and I met, where I was trying to map out and figure out how we were going to do our marketing, how we were going to sell this thing, because we had no idea at the time. And those are actually the most brilliant times when you actually really don't know, honestly. And
I was just enjoying listening to your journey, watching your journey.
It was
the things that, first of all, tell us a little bit about the product, because it's amazing. And you think you have a client base of 1.8 billion people, and these guys are constantly changing because people are passing away and being born. So it's constantly, it's like a conveyor belt of consumers waiting for your product, and nobody had thought of this.
Yeah,
so tell us all about it.
Sure. So I'll go back about 23 years ago, actually, to actually come to this story, because and I'm kind of learning about this right now, because a friend of mine did a very good job in helping me figure something out about myself I didn't understand, and he titled it "Unlocking Unseen Possibilities." And in the beginning, I didn't quite get it until he's like, dude, every time I sit with you, you just find things that nobody else has seen, and then you just unlock it.
So this must have been, you were in your early 20s, right?
Yeah, this is when I started my first internet service provider in Canada. So it was Canada Online, competing with AOL. And so we, at that time, had seen that internet was just starting out. When I say starting out, I'm talking like educating people to get onto the internet, not to actually use it. It's a completely different world. One of the most phenomenal things I saw at that time was a stat that said by year 2000, so this was in 1994, 95 approximately.
Pre-Google.
Pre almost everything. I'm talking websites were gray with blue links, and you'd be lucky to have a few images.
When it's a domain name, nobody knew what you were talking about.
Exactly. They were I think $120 at the time, and then the next year they went to $70, right?
What happened was those days, just a quick story. I thought I was in the UK, you were in Canada. And I thought the internet was the future, and nobody believed it.
Yeah.
And so I went ahead and I bought the domain names of every single Premier League football club.
Oh, brilliant!
In the UK, I had them for 3 years. I contacted Manchester United, Liverpool, and none of them wanted a website. So after 3 years of keep buying domain names, I just gave them away.
Oh, you're kidding me!
Honestly,
how much would those be worth today?
I think I would have had to give it to them anyway.
Really?
Right? Because they own the intellectual property rights.
Yeah.
Because I think it happened to 20th Century Fox, maybe Virgin or something. But
Yeah.
so I like to think I saw it, but I just didn't have enough. There's some of the things I've learned in life that I should have persuaded longer. I quit.
Yeah.
When people didn't see the future, I quit.
Yeah, I see. When people start to think you're crazy and they say you cannot do it, and here's the thing: if people start telling me I have a great idea, I actually get worried. I'm probably not I'm not really onto something. But the minute people start saying, "Oh, I don't think it's a great idea," or "I don't think people are going to accept it," I think I'm onto something because less people actually see it. The less people see something, the less friction there is to make something happen.
Bigger opportunity.
Exactly, much bigger opportunity.
But isn't it most more costly that way? Isn't it
The
more
education
painful
process,
that
the
way?
education process, like, so let's go back to the 90s. The education process was phenomenally expensive, right? Because we'd still have to use traditional advertising, billboards, right? Yahoo, the famous Yahoo billboard on the highway there in Silicon Valley, TV ads. I mean, it was ridiculous. Today, to educate consumers and acquire them, it costs pennies, right?
An instant.
An instant, exactly. So we're in a time and era with tools that's just like, they're just sitting waiting for you to solve their problems. You just need to make them aware, and then just pull them into your funnel.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I would definitely say education is definitely a problem, but it's not as difficult as you think it is. In fact, to share a story with you, as we were introducing a new product at that time, as we were scaling, one of the co-founders came to me.
This is in Canada.
No, this is the Paramat. So let me be more sweet. Yeah. So when we were scaling, we were introducing a new sort of disruption as well. And he was like, "How are we going to educate people?" I'm like, "Dude, that's what we've been doing for the last 2-3 years. That's a core competency. That's what we're good at, right? Just like how we educated them about this product. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to do that again, and we're going to do it again and again and again, and we're not going to stop because that's our core capability, right? We're just replacing the product and the disruption, but the capability of educating and acquiring new customers is the capability, right? We should be of no fear of it. So yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So let's go back. You said Canada, 20 odd years ago.
Right. So what happened is, and I've just learned this recently, is the dust has settled. So I found that for the last 23 years, I've been unlocking all these unseen possibilities. Probably the biggest or most well-known of them is the last one, which was x5, which I sold in January 1st of 2018 to a private fund. So let's go back to where all this started. It basically started when I went for a pilgrimage with my wife to Mecca. So we were there. This is the first time there. Overwhelming experience. I'm sitting there, and from a distance, there's this really old guy. I mean, his face was incredibly beautiful. He has one of those faces where you can kind of see his history in his face. He got the wrinkles, like this beautiful old sort of Bedouin kind of face.
Yes.
He was just beautiful old man.
Skin.
Exactly.
But, yes.
But some
life.
the soul,
you could see his life.
Exactly, coming right through his face, shining through the wrinkles, right? And something about this guy just caught my attention. I don't know what it was, we gravitated, right? And he's trying to pray physically, but he can't. Not that he can't. It's very difficult, but he's just taking his time. He was so devoted.
Watch his struggle.
Yeah.
Physical struggle.
Yeah. This is a man that easily can just say, "I need to use a chair," get away with not even doing it. But he was so devoted from inside. His spiritual inspiration was so strong. He, no matter how much pain and how long it took him, he had to do it. And I just sat and watched this guy. And then I have what's called the intersective time. Intersective time is when I stopped and I said, "Wow, this is my first time here. This is 1,400 years this has been happening." And this man who's 85 years old comes from a culture where he probably started praying when he was 10 or 15. So he's been doing this for 75 years. And me and him collide at this point in time in history.
And you spot him amongst thousands of people.
Exactly. And that's when I stopped and I told my wife, I said, with today's technology, there's no reason why that man should be praying praying in pain. It's an impossibility.
When you say pain, because the listeners and the viewers don't know what you mean by pain.
So what we found is that 52% of those who pray or meditate have knee pain. Okay. Now the surprise here, it's not because of the prayer process. The prayer process is actually very good for you.
Because it's movement.
Things. Exactly. So it's what's called the 130-140 flexion that actually helps the knee. So it's actually very good for you. The problem is the other forms of ergonomics that we have. So the chairs and the car. We found that 92% of all equipment that we actually use is not ergonomically designed for our physical well-being.
Crazy.
And one of the things that we studied that, believe it or not, that was one of the best ergonomically designed products was the first stage iPhone, the early generation. So Steve Jobs had a rule where when you do the thumb swipe,
everything on one hand using a thumb.
Got it. Can you do that today?
No. You're right. They've lost their way.
They've lost their way out of the window.
Because he was obsessed by the hand, wasn't he?
Yes.
And he just wanted one button and the screen.
He wanted complete simplicity. Today I gotta have both hands, and I got up like this, and I mean,
It's awkward.
if you counted how many times you need to stretch in different ways and calculate that over a year or two, you recognize your body just on these little things. Even text neck, which is a new phenomena, just like this all the time. I mean, it happens to all of us, right? I'm sitting there in the morning, first thing I'm doing my email, and just it's the first thing, and then I remember, right? I'm now aware. So even it's all around us, right? So there was a miscommunication. Speaking of education in the beginning, people were thinking and saying, you should stop praying because you have pain. And we're like, no, that's not the case. You should be doing more because it's actually good for you, but you need to be aware of the other lifestyle issues, right? Yes. And that's when, at some stage, so we'll talk about the branding and the marketing, how we actually found it, right? Because that happened right after you and I met, and that's just an amazing story in itself. And that strike of genius is what made that whole thing possible in a very unique way. But nonetheless, the flash of genius happened when going to the pilgrimage. I came back, and the idea just haunted me.
So were you in employment there, or were you self-employed?
No, I was working actually for one of the top strategy firms in the world at that time. And I was actually, so I started my career as an entrepreneur.
You were based in Dubai?
Yeah, I was based between Dubai and Washington.
So tell me, just going back a little bit, we'll come back to the prayer match.
Sure.
So you were born in Canada?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And you lived there how long, and what brought you to US and Dubai?
So my family immigrated to Canada in the 60s, right? So they've been there for about half a century. I was born there. I came to Dubai in my early mid-20s. Okay, so I came with a lobbying firm based out of Washington that would lobby on behalf of the interest of the tech industry, and I met them in Silicon Valley because I'd started several tech companies, including Canada Online. And so they'd shown an interest in the way I developed strategy, and then that's how I actually ended up here, and I ended up working with the government for a good period of time. Great time. It was the golden years of Dubai, where I was their chief strategist, heading up strategy to develop how the economy here would be developed. Absolutely amazing times. I consider Dubai like my own product, right? So when I walk around, I see just a little glitch of any kind, I get really upset, and people are like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? So it's not that I complain. It's just like, this has got to be perfect. This is the way Sheikh Mo wants it, right?
I guess those days you were working with His Highness's private office, right? It was direct. It wasn't thousands of people you had to go through to get.
I mean, those days are very different. I mean, that's why I mean like golden days. So in those days, Sheikh Mo was institutionalizing his decision making because
and he was the crown prince at the time. He wasn't the ruler of Dubai.
Exactly. He transitioned to ruler of Dubai and prime minister. So he became. He jumped up several notches, right? Yes. And he was in so much demand for the country for his brilliance, of course. But he's human like the rest of us. He's stretched out, right? So, and we all face this problem, by the way. This is one of the things I tackle today with growth hacking, which is how do you scale yourself? How do you automate yourself? How do you institutionalize yourself? It's a serious problem, but there's solutions to it, right? It's not an impossibility. So we can talk a little bit more about that.
I'd love to.
But going back to the story,
we have so many things to talk about.
I know.
I'll bring you back all night, man. When I send you a different direction, I'll bring you back down.
So
you came to Dubai.
Yeah.
You were involved in the strategy of the country going online.
Yeah. Okay. And then I helped set up the investment office, which was the foreign investment office, basically designed to bring FDI into the Emirate of Dubai. This was ignited out of a reform program that I was heading up at the time. It was a $500 million program to reform the economic sector.
Funded by the government?
Yeah, it's a complete government. No, this is like 100% government working inside the machine itself. So this goes back to the unlocking the unseen possibilities, because what happened is when we had the budget to pull this off, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, you don't necessarily have as much money anymore. You kind of need to start thinking about really what you're going to do.
Be creative.
Yeah, creative.
Get creative.
Exactly. Be unique, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Be unique. Be very creative. And that's when I talk about foreign direct investment being the lifeblood of Dubai, and that plays a really critical element into how this place is going to grow. And so we set up an office dedicated to that, and it's just been growing ever since. I believe in the first 2 years. I mean, we're talking like 2009, right? When things were a bit tough. Yeah, $3 billion in FDI, right?
Yes.
That's with little friction.
Yes.
Yeah. Tells you a lot about how things work in Dubai. Fantastic place.
So your line of expertise was structuring things? Strategy,
innovation, and commercialization.
And you said something about raising funds as well.
Yeah. So as I build all these different companies, I'm always finding myself raising money, right? And by the way, I've never enjoyed it.
Sure.
It's a painful process. I think you remember those days as well when we first met. I was also fundraising at that time. That led to actually almost nothing, and then I put my own money in, which I usually start with anyways, and then another 9 investors followed. Right? They said, okay, we're putting in.
You had skin in the game, so they were more comfortable.
Exactly.
And said, right, he's put his life online, so let's commit to it.
Exactly. Although I had skin in the game prior to it, but they don't see it like that. So
they don't value time; they value your cash as well as.
You nailed it. Yeah. So I'd like to actually get to a point where I've got intellectual property that is actually registered and being manufactured. That costs money. But that's a long story. But anyways, I put up my own money, and that was one of the best things I did. You lead the way, let them come in. You need to have skin in the game. You need to get the right people. I was very lucky. I had 10 excellent initial shareholders that work with me to grow this business.
For entrepreneurs like yourself, I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and they tell me that it's very difficult to raise money.
It is.
It's hard to raise money.
Very tough.
Are there other people out there? Then I speak to people and say there's lots of people looking at investing.
Yeah.
But then I hear that some investments are too small for some investors.
It's ridiculous.
Right?
It's ridiculous.
Key investors are looking for multi-million-dollar investments.
Yep.
But if you want $500,000, it's too small for them.
Is
that correct?
That's a huge problem in this region. So this is a huge problem in this region. I got a really good piece of advice from a guy from Endeavor based in San Francisco. He says there are 2 types of people: those who create success and those who follow success, right? So the people you're talking about are people who follow success, not the ones who create success. So if a little startup company came and all they needed $50,000 to ignite an app that was going to be a next billion,
they won't get it.
They don't get it. Exactly. Thank you very much. And the biggest problem is educating investors. This took me years to figure out, mapping out the idea of, raising money for an innovation and then educating the investor. I would end up spending more time and money and energy educating investors about something.
It takes your focus off your product.
Exactly. Right? I'm not focused on revenue anymore.
Do you find that there's more smart investors in different parts of the world?
Definitely,
For instance, Silicon Valley, you can have a coffee with 3 multi-billionaires and they'll put $200,000, $300,000 each or something.
Yeah, because see, their equation is very different because they're a lot more mature and sophisticated in the process. So when you sit and having the coffee and you put $250,000 into your company, not just is it nothing, but his equation is like, I'm going to put into 10 companies $250,000. 1 or 2 of them are going to make me 10, 20, 30, 50, $1 billion. The point is it's going to cover the remaining 8 or 10 plus, right? So when you think like that, you get a lot more in the pipeline, and you have an aptitude to more risk, but you also get a lot smarter in how you get people or the entrepreneurs you invest in. But the point is there's a lot of that happening. So it becomes a habit, right? There's not a lot of that happening, although that has changed, by the way. So from 2010 up till today, the investment activities in this region have dramatically changed. I mean, they're not at Silicon Valley level. They're not at, Canada struggles too, by the way.
Different size market, I guess, isn't it?
So. Yes. So this market has got challenges because it's not as big as we think it is, and it's shrinking right now, and it's not scalable. Now, the biggest fallacy I've had with startup companies that I've invested in the region is they say, we're tapping into the MENA region, which is 22 countries, 350 million people. Try crossing a border with product or service. So hard, right?
And also, the dialect isn't exactly the same, is it? They say, it's Arab world, they all speak Arabic, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differentiation. That can turn into many opportunities, actually. But the problem is I'll give you an example. So we had some documents we need to send to Saudi from the UAE in regards to our intellectual property. Each stamp is like 2,500 dirhams. We need 3-4 of these stamps. I was like
crazy.
Yeah, and you try talking to a bureaucrat, like, excuse me, but we're trying to stimulate business here. No, it's 2,500 dirhams a stamp. You kind of sitting there like, it's just a stamp.
Yes. They're just not business oriented. They're not.
There's a lot of things in the system
that clogs it. It slows it down.
Yeah, slows it down.
For the young entrepreneurs let's say they got an app and it's going to change the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should they get on a plane and go to San Francisco and meet with investors or fund managers?
That sounds like the smartest thing to do, but what you got to start with was the people closest to you who actually believe in you, right? So family, friends, and fools. I mean, you really have to start there, right? Your mom, your dad, your cousin, your friend, your neighbor, who will be like, okay, I trust you, I like you, I'll give you $10,000, right?
Yes.
So the trick is not about how much money you get in the beginning, it's about what money you can actually access and how well you can use it, and then finally get to those points. Because see, today Silicon Valley has changed a lot, right? In the 90s, which the golden era of 90s, I love the 90s, I'm a huge 90s guy, right? You would just walk in with an idea and you can raise money, right? That's not the case today. Today you need traction, right? And to me, that does actually make sense. You need traction. I can't just say I have a great
it's
idea.
kind of like testing the market. It's market testing, isn't it? So if there are people, there are thousands showing interest in your product line, correct?
Exactly. And you need them paying. They don't have to be high paying. It doesn't have to be profitable. Your product doesn't have to be at top level where you want it to be. It can be just the minimum viable product, right? You just need people to pay for it to prove that there's an actual market for it. Yes. And then you got to show how you plan to scale with that traction.
Let's say you get that. You get that. Okay, you put your couple of $100,000 that you've got from friends, family, and fools.
Yep.
And you need to scale it.
Yep.
What happens then? What do you do then? I'm actually really interested because I've never had to raise money.
Really? Okay, that's brilliant. And by the way, that's the best position to be in. Yes. If you're in a business where you don't need to raise money, you're actually a lot better off. If I'm to go back in history, there's a lot of companies that I would have never been able to grow unless I had raised money. So let's look at both sides of the equation here. But at the same time, if I had more control in certain things, or I was able to execute a bit quicker because of being a bit more grinded, the situation could have been a lot different. I don't regret anything in the past. I always look forward. So these are all learnings, right? So if you're in a business where you don't need to raise money, don't raise a penny.
I do know though, if I had the ability or the know-how, I could have scaled it many times faster and bigger than it is currently today.
Yeah.
I just didn't know where to go. I don't know, and I still don't know, don't know, who do I call?
Yeah.
Yes, it's venture capitalists. How do you know that they specialize in IT and not this and that?
Yeah.
So how would you guide me if I came to you and said, listen, now I've got a product, I've got a company that's been running profitably, but to make it the number one and dominate the market, I need X amount.
Yep. So for starters, you have more than one way to finance a scale, right? So VCs are just one of them. Also, you can use debt, you can use crowdfunding. There are many options today, right? So depending on what it is that you're actually trying to scale, you need to step back and structure it in a way that makes sense. So I'll give you a really simple example recently. An entrepreneur came to me, he lives in Dubai, he's moving back to Pakistan, and he's discovered that the government is funding dairy farms, right? So I'm like, what, dairy farms? Big business, right? Okay, so he's raising $100,000, right? $10,000 to buy the land. And the rest is basically to operate. There's a guaranteed rate that comes out to sell the milk at a specific traded price.
They commit. The government commits to buying it.
Exactly.
Go and sell it in the open market. If you can't do it, we'll buy it at this price.
Exactly. And it's a guaranteed flow of revenue, right? So, he said, I'm going to sell equity. And I was like, man, all you need is $10,000. What the hell are you talking about? Get the land, right? And then put the land against debt. Pay out people guaranteed 3 to 5%. We can figure out the calculation. Then bring in the contracts that guarantee that they're buying the milk, build a massive trade business until you got the revenue to fund the premium business that you're doing. That would work. That's a growth hack, right? So it doesn't have to be so linear like that. I don't have to go to a VC. A VCs, they can be brilliant in many ways, but they can also be quite, they can take you backwards in many ways as well. So the secret to it that I've learned with time, going back to the idea of education, this is going to sound very counterintuitive, but you want to go to an investor who's invested in a business exactly like yours. And if he hasn't, something very similar.
They're not going to slow you down when you've got to justify every single dollar that you spend on your business.
Exactly. So when I tell entrepreneurs that, the first thing they say, oh, but they're funding my competition. I'm like, that's exactly what they want. If these guys are smart, they want to fund 3-4 guys gaining market share that they've got access to all of them.
They want to dominate. So it flips the mindset for a lot of these startup companies, and this is a hard they're not going to
lesson.
take your information and give it to your competitors.
Well, you should still be careful. You never know. But the point is, like, you gotta be smart about it, right? I mean, you still don't know, but the chances of you getting traction with someone who knows what you're talking about is a lot faster and easier and less costly than you going educating a guy halfway across the world about this whole new business. At the end, he's gonna say, I still don't get it. So, you're a lot better off like that. You need to find somebody who understands you.
Do you think it's easier to raise money now than 10 years ago?
No, I found money with time has gotten more difficult to raise, although we've got new channels to do that, like crowdfunding and so forth. But the regulatory barriers that have come around it, the amount of volume you can actually fundraise through crowdfunding, intellectual property right issues that come around it, it's got its own challenges. The amount of channels to raise money have gotten better, but I haven't found it easier to raise money with time. You would think it would, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Going back to the prayer mat.
Yeah, back to the pyramid.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I meet you,
Yeah.
and it was incredible the challenges that you had, because
Yeah.
you correct me if I'm wrong. You made and manufactured this unbelievable prayer mat. You were working on the design.
Yep.
And then you found out when you roll the mat, it actually doesn't fold properly.
Yeah, so we...
Do you remember?
Yeah,
when you roll
yeah.
it, because
oh, yeah, so we
it's the
totally...
disproportion of the cloth length. Yeah.
I'm so glad you remember that, because you're one of the very few people who probably witnessed the very end of our R&D. So we did about 139 prototypes before we ever got to production. So every reiteration had a problem, right? One would be weight, one would be the folding like you talk about, one would be the colors, right? The other would be being able to pack it, then the actual technology itself. So you wouldn't be able to solve all these things in one prototype, and that's a huge misconception. You're going to have to move quickly through reiterations very quickly, and you witnessed it, right?
Yes.
We had discoloration problems. I think probably at that time I remember we had the tubing around it wasn't actually constructed right because of the process of putting the layers together. So we would have to go one by one, but as fast as possible. 139 prototypes. Most people will give up by the 5th time. Most people get discouraged by the 3rd attempt, right? So they say there's just nothing in it. But perseverance pays. It's painful.
Did you ever think about quitting?
I did at one stage. I mean, I
guess it was affecting the quality of your life, right? Because you were investing time and money and everything into this.
Oh, I probably almost quit before that. Like, there was a stage where the technicalities were just so complex that it felt like almost impossible. But I knew that it was possible. I just wasn't looking at it in the right way. So I actually took some time off. I took 2 months off to rethink.
For you, that's a lifetime. I know the
Yeah. Man, I felt like it was the end of the world for me, right? But I had to, because my mind, my soul, everything just needed to re-ferment somehow, right? And my wife would ask me daily, like, "Are you not working on this? Have you given up?" And I hate to hear the word, "Have you given up?" I said, "I haven't given up." But she's like, "You're not doing anything." I am, but it's just not visible yet.
Just to recharge my batteries, right?
Yeah,
clear my mind and the
exactly.
clutter that's going on.
Exactly.
And all the negative talk that's going on in your head.
Exactly.
It may not work. Maybe it's the wrong idea.
Yeah, having the wrong people on your team as well. I mean, having to have to change some of those things is very frustrating. I mean, we all go through that, and it could be really. I mean, it was frustrating. I mean, nothing that's great is easy. Let's put it like that. Yeah.
So you saw the old man.
Yep.
And you see him struggling to pray.
Yeah.
You've done all your research.
Yep.
So what was your vision? Tell
My
us
vision.
What was the vision of this mat that you're going to create? I'm not going to say too much. I want you to tell us that was going to assist people with their aches and pains while they were praying.
So my vision was something called the physio-spiritual experience, right? Where the physical and spiritual experience are in complete comfort, so that you can focus on whatever spiritual system or process that you follow. So on the product, we used to have a promise. It was the sticker where you pull out and it says, "You focus on prayer, we'll focus on keep you comfortable." And that's our promise to you. And that's the guarantee that we'd always give. And we'd give a 1-year warranty, which was never even heard of. Basically, if there's any dissatisfaction, 1 year, we would replace the product on the spot. We were the only prayer mat manufacturer in the world at that time. Forget all the technology.
There's other companies coming to the market?
Oh, we had a lot of people copy us. Yeah, I mean that's just normal. Once they start copying you, I remember calling my lawyer. I'm like, "Hey, we got a copycat." He's like, "Congratulations, you've just been validated." It's a serious validation. The thing about copycats, though, you gotta understand,
they'll never get it right.
They'll never get it right,
and they'll never keep fixing and improving because you're moving ahead. Because it's your life, it's your passion.
Exactly, and they don't understand how you did it. So I can go copy how an iPhone looks like, but I may not like, so the swipe, right? They didn't understand the swipe. So let's make the screen bigger so the customer can see more. But what they didn't understand was the thinking and the logic and the research behind it, right? And that applies to everything, including even the experience around it, where the customer service itself. So being in the spiritual business, people would naturally have low expectations of delivery.
Sure.
It's just one of those things.
Sure.
We changed that. We're like, next day at your door. Next day. Customer service, accessible 24 hours a day.
Because before, they had to go to some kind of a dirty shop when the carpets were hanging. They had to pick it up. It was just nothing that customers want to service, did they? They just want to pick it up and use it, and that's it.
That's it, exactly. And what the strange thing is, we did some research in the beginning to look at what would be some of the common sort of spiritual products in a typical household, and we found that prayer mats were 3.14 times per person in a home, which sounds ridiculously high. right? So when we looked a bit deeper at it, it's one of the top gifting items that someone would give someone else.
And they just store it.
Yeah, exactly. But we tapped into the gifting concept.
Right.
So 52% of my revenue was literally just gifting, and 81% of my customers were women who understood gifting and quality way better than men.
That's
But we didn't
amazing.
understand that at the time. But
That's
we learned very quickly.
Did you get into stores? Or did you go online or both?
So our first failure point is we tried to do distribution. You probably remember that,
Yes, I
right?
do.
So everyone's like, yeah, you got to get an agent, and
what's
man,
my margin and this and that, and then your pricing is so ridiculously high
Yeah.
that you're gonna
it wasn't
shift
working.
any.
It wasn't working because of the commercial mechanics, but there was another reason it wasn't working that most people did not see. So imagine you walk into a department store and you're a whole new category. Where do you fit? I'm not an appliance.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not bedding. I'm not kitchenware. So what they do is they start kind of fitting you into one of these things, and then you just keep falling down the distribution system. On top of
Because
that,
it takes time.
not just that, you're competing on margins, not product. And distribution system was not going to work. So I went direct. Smartest decision we made is we went direct and digital. We changed the whole game by doing that. My shareholders were extremely scared because they believed that getting a distributor would take the risk away. And I told them it's actually the complete opposite. To take the risk away, we need to be in direct connection, owning the customer relationship, so that we can cultivate that relationship, which worked out very well for us because it just kept generating us more and more referral business. And that's what it's built on.
Great, fantastic, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, something that I remember as you were speaking was that you were talking about getting some influencers to use your prayer mats.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Well, you probably remember my first one, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, you wanna say the secret?
No, you please say it. I want you to do that.
The story is interesting. Muhammad Ali,
Yes.
the boxer.
Yes.
I reached out to him through a contact of mine. He used to work with him.
That would have been 2012, right?
No,
2013.
prior to that, because I was invited.
I met Muhammad Ali in 2011.
So
So it would have been around the same time.
It would have been the same time, but after that, but within the same year, not 2012, because 2012 I think he turned 70, and that's when he had his 70th birthday party, and then I think he passed away 2-3 years after that. Did he?
He passed away 3 years ago.
3 years ago, right?
So it would have been
16,
2016.
Yeah.
He passed away.
Exactly. So
tell me, because I have a Muhammad Ali story. To
I
tell,
know.
actually. So tell me about
Because I
yours.
remember that's how you surprised me when you start talking about Muhammad Ali, and then I think I double surprised me, we're actually working on something. So he was managed by an entertainment company, and I don't remember the name, but
He sold his 80% of his name, didn't he? He
Yeah.
sold 80% of his brand.
I think it was $80 million they paid for
It was
80 million.
50 or 80, something like that. Yes.
It was a huge
It's
amount
been
of money.
resold again.
Yeah.
To the guys who own the Michael Jackson brand, Elvis, Marilyn Monroe.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Well, these guys paid a lot of money for his name, and they had a lot of control in what happens. So my pitch to him was, Muhammad Ali, you're the champion of the world, right? But the icing on the cake is showing people the compassion and spirituality of what you stand for, which drove you to become the champion. That's what I would love you to be remembered for, at least in my world. And he was blown away. Showed him the product and everything, and his management team were blown over the idea. And they came to me with a licensing agreement to license the name, and I said, I don't want licensing, I want an endorsement. And they're like, sorry, but he's officially retired. He cannot endorse something after he's retired. I said, I don't think we can do very much unless he actually endorses it.
Yeah.
It won't work. The funny thing, I was getting some advice from my wife at the time, and she's like, well, if you put Muhammad Ali's name, I mean, your neighbor's also named Muhammad Ali, and the other guy, there's the name Muhammad Ali. Like, how there's a generation that may not actually know him unless they actually see him, right? And my wife had an excellent point, but I knew at that time, unless we got endorsement rather than just licensing, it would have, so it didn't work out. But from that,
So it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Wow.
But they were in negotiations with, and they came back and they.
So they basically wanted cash, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's not. See, if it was an endorsement, I have no problem paying it, honestly speaking. But if it's licensing, it should be an endorsement and licensing actually combined ideally. But endorsement is where the power is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went to Louisville, Kentucky,
Yeah.
to the Ali Center,
Yeah.
and I wish I'd never gone
Really? Why?
because it broke my heart.
Really? What
Because
happened?
to me, Muhammad Ali was just my hero, and then I realized that he had been taken advantage of.
Oh.
Just like any old boxer.
Yeah.
60-70% of the equipment in the center didn't work.
Oh.
there were names of the investors like Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, Sheikh Mohammed. All these people have put $1 million or above into the place. And I don't think people in Louisville, Kentucky appreciated it.
Wow.
They felt like, actually, is Muhammad Ali part of Louisville? Because he actually went to, I think, another part of the country to do all his training, although he was born there. So they didn't appreciate it, and they didn't realize it was a self-funding center. They felt, the public, that it was something that their council had put in.
Okay.
And there was hardly any investment.
Wow.
So I got there, and all my dreams, everything else, were just
blown away. Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it broke my heart.
Really.
But I'd started a campaign, if you recall.
Yeah.
If I hadn't gone to Louisville, Kentucky, I wouldn't have built this company today.
Really?
I started a campaign to open up an Ali Center in the UAE.
Okay.
For 3 years, I chased my dreams, got knocked back, and I opened up a Facebook page. I've never been on Facebook, and I wrote a newsletter, opened up a page called, I think it was the Ali Center UAE.
Okay.
And I posted a letter in there saying, if 50 of you support me, I will continue chasing my dream to open up an Ali Center that mirrors what it is in Louisville, Kentucky, in Dubai, because it brings the most famous athlete on the planet. It bridges the gap between the West and the East, and people will be more aware of values of Islam and forgiveness and so forth, and respect. And also there's lots of obesity here in the UAE, and part of his curriculum was to find the greatness within children. And it just fitted perfectly. So I wrote the letter saying that it was an emotional letter, saying that all I remember was age of 4. All I remember from my father, who passed away at age of 4. He used to get me up early hours in the morning in Iran and have me on his knees watching the Ali fights.
Oh, wow.
So all I remember of my father is watching the Ali fights.
Oh, you're kidding me.
So I wrote this letter, and I said, if 50 of you support me in the morning, I will chase my dream. I went to bed. You don't know this, no?
No.
I never told you this. And I woke up in the morning, I had over 1,000 followers.
Wow.
Within 2 weeks, I had over 40,000 followers.
Oh, you're kidding me.
And I get a call from America saying, can you be available at 11 o'clock at night? We got home, put the mobile phone on the table, it rang. Lonnie Ali, Mrs. Muhammad Ali.
Oh, wow.
Muhammad Ali's wife on the phone.
Wow.
And he said, Muhammad's heard about your campaign, he'd like to meet you.
Wow.
So at that time, I didn't have much money. I was trying to build a business, and I was a consultant selling my time. But the question I kept asking was, how can I have a business where I'm not selling my time? Because if I'm selling my time, I'm limited to my earnings. There's only so much time in a day. And I was leading to another heart attack. Literally, I was exhausted, and 2-3 clients a day who want blood from you. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
So I went to Louisville, Kentucky, and I was just about to walk in. By that time, I had 60,000 followers. I had the government of India contact me, government of Egypt contact me, saying they wanted the Ali centers. So I was sitting in a restaurant thinking, actually, how rude of me not to keep in touch with his followers, because if it hadn't been for the followers on Facebook, I wouldn't be here. So I took a picture of the Ali Center board and the menu saying, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, just about to go and see Muhammad Ali. And I posted it, and 7,000 people responded within 5 minutes. And I was like, even telling you this story now, that was 2011.
Wow.
Even telling you this story now, the hair stands on my body, all over my body. And right there and then I thought, this is a small stadium of people that I've influenced or affected or supporting me, or they changed my life. And on the back of a handkerchief, I wrote a business plan to open up a social media company.
Good for you.
I had 40 odd clients, and I thought, if I charge less than a T-boy, and do this social media management. At the time, there was only Facebook.
Yeah.
And would they pay me $500, $600 a month? I got back and I signed 20 clients in the first month.
Wow.
So it became a business.
Wow.
Yeah. So Muhammad Ali really did change my life.
Wow.
Although the experience,
directly and indirectly.
Yeah. Although the experience itself wasn't a wowing one.
Yeah.
It was a bit disheartening, and obviously, to see him suffering like he had done, because in your head you see him as that sportsman, you see him on stage, exactly, even shaking, but to see him not being able to feed himself on a wheelchair, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's amazing how these little inspirations in life can really change everything. We take them for granted at that time. And I always say, it's like one little tiny idea can literally change everything.
Like Steve Jobs said, when you look back, the dots somehow connect.
They somehow connect, right? Yeah. I that was an amazing talk. Was at Stanford, I think it was, right? And he talks about connecting the dots, and that's exactly with this unlocking unseen possibilities. When my friend found that, and I went back to connect the dots, and I was like, that's what I do. I was like, that's exactly what I do, and I need to scale what I do somehow. Right now, I'm trying to scale myself.
I'm dying to know about that. So let's go back again to the prayer man, right? The Muhammad Ali didn't work, right?
Didn't work out.
You didn't quit. Work out. You didn't give up.
We didn't give up. No. I mean, the fact that he said yes and was inspired to do this got me even more fueled up, although it didn't even work out the way I wanted it to. But the point that I was able to get that kind of traction said a lot about where I was going. And the ability to get someone like that says a lot. He's probably the biggest influencer I probably pitched who said yes to me anyways. Yeah. But what I learned with time is that you don't really need big influencers.
So how do you get the market to listen to you, pay attention to you? And because it's never been done before, right?
It's never been done before, right? So what got people to listen was the story was so from left field. It would just naturally catch your attention. Space technology and spirituality are two things that don't necessarily, it's not like peanut butter and jelly, right? So it's awkward. It will catch your attention, and then you'll get very curious, and there's a lot of mystery behind the two.
Do you find that without being prejudiced or generalizing, is that not all your consumers had access to computers or internet? Or
I don't think so. I mean, I think we're at a time and age where the penetration rates are so high. Even if someone, I mean, we would have some customers who would have his cousin who's using internet get it for him, right? But that was a rarity. I mean, that.
And you said 50% was, or a high percentage was gifts, right?
So yeah. Everything online. I mean, people who were buying from us preferred online anyways because it was just easy. I mean,
Do you go through retailers like Amazon? You go direct yourself?
No, we did direct. So we would use soup.com. We actually went out on a campaign to get into as many channels as possible, and that had its own set of challenges as well. So the biggest success we found was with, I'll tell you where, loyalty programs and Visa. We had an international partnership with Visa.
So the points that people collated, they could take that as a gift, and then Visa paid you the
exactly, because you feel it's free, right? You've actually really paid for it, but you feel it's free, and
because it was a premium product at the time, right?
Exactly. And my biggest partner at that time was Etihad Airlines. So our demographic, our demographic target audience, everything just matched up very well. So we made a lot of money with them.
Amazing.
A lot of money with them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you sold that business 2018.
Yeah.
But you've been busy before, right? Because you're doing other things. Space? Tell me.
Well, when I was building the product, we were using space technology, right? And we had a former NASA scientist who used to work with me as my partner, not formally, but informally. He was trying to help me out, and that is how I got on the radar screen of NASA. So they were like, "What the hell is this guy working on? What is this all about?" Because he got a slap on the wrist, right? Like,
what did he, for sharing some information or knowledge?
No, he's not. I mean, they have him working on specific things, and this is out of scope, and so it can raise some suspicion. Like, is this in conflict? Obviously, it's not. And that's what raised their interest, and so we had several conversations after that, and then
at first it was just to get their approval, right?
Well, it wasn't really more approval. They become so fascinated scientifically behind what we were doing because we were using space technology. They literally came through my friend and said, "I mean, you qualify as a certified space technology company?" And I was like, "I have no idea what that means." They're like, "Well, why don't you come to the US? Let's have a conversation." So I became the 43rd company in history to be certified through the US Space Foundation, which is basically the technology transfer arm of NASA, right? So we became part of the NASA family.
They have hundreds of thousands of patents, haven't they?
Yeah, they got about 16,000 patents. So at some stage they make it available to people like myself who can help commercialize.
So you have access to those?
I mean, many people can actually get access to it. They just don't know how. To be honest with you, there are certain so this it's a good question because a lot of these big organizations do a lot of R&D that's not very commercializable, right? So having 16,000 patents sitting on the shelf doesn't mean very much actually.
That's just dormant.
Yeah, it's just dormant. And
you've got obviously thousands of others that they utilize, but these are the 60,000 are just sitting on the shelf dormant.
They don't have value unless you can commercialize them. That's just the bottom line. And that's where they had a lot of interest in what I do. As a space tech company, I became profitable in 18 months. That's the fastest they've ever heard of a space technology company become profitable in such a short. We actually became profitable slightly before that, but they became so interested in how we did that. I would get called into investment forums, innovation forums that they'd run to talk to other space companies about how we did it and how we can help them. And that got me an appointment about a year ago as a judge on the Space Hall of Fame, which is basically 7 judges appointed to work with 7 companies, other space tech companies, on how to commercialize their
Is this something that
technology.
was televised or?
No. Well, there's a lot of intellectual property issues, so it's very.
You can't go public with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ceremony that is conducted at the end of the year where they're recognized for what they do. There's a paper that goes out, which is a 1-pager that talks about the companies, but it doesn't really go behind the scenes. But I think that would be a great idea. They should probably think it. They should probably think
Let's write it down.
Yeah,
quick.
this is something they can do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me about what was NASA experience like?
The most interesting thing, they're the one organization out of all the organizations I worked with in that time period that probably gave me the most support.
And it's not a private company, it's government run, right? So to have that support from a government run company is very rare.
Yeah, I mean, so they can't endorse private companies, and they didn't, and nor do they. But what happened is, okay, so first off, they featured me in Spin-Offs. It's an annual magazine that features their top innovations, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is
the
they
product
took me...
was the prayer mats.
The product was the prayer mat, exactly. And then they took me to South of South, which is one of the largest innovation conferences in the world, and it was being inaugurated by Obama at the time. So they wanted to show the public about what NASA does that's pretty cool in space tech, and I got featured. So there was a lot of really interesting support mechanisms that they gave me. I never asked for them. Every time I would be completely shocked that they did this. I think a large part of it, which is an inspiring story in itself, is when you get inaugurated, they kind of float the invitation around internally among their leadership who's going to do the actual ceremony. And I was lucky, Jim Kennedy, who's the nephew of JFK, who ran the Kennedy Space Center, was the guy who inaugurated me. What's interesting about him was when he first met me, he's like, I read your story, you scared me.
Wow.
And then I got to know you a bit deeper, and then you inspired me.
Wow.
I looked at him, I said, speeches, I don't know what time, and I'm about to get on stage and give a keynote speech. He's like, I've worked on 500,000 space technology transfers, and the only one that I have worked on that matches the number one reason that the Space Act was passed by Congress in 1956 was the embetterment of mankind. He's like, you are at the heart of that, and today is why I'm here. I was blown away, and I'm about to get on stage to give a keynote speech, and I'm already speechless, right? So yeah, it was. I got more support out of organizations in the U.S., especially NASA, than I would in this region. Although I was targeting this region.
Did that turn into capital for you? Did that turn into profits for you?
No, not directly. No, it was more or less credentials that would validate what we're doing. So it wouldn't be like someone say, "Oh."
Indirectly, it helped you.
Big time. Yeah.
Since then, have you done any work with NASA?
They've appointed me as a judge, so that's basically my engagement point at this time. I don't know what else will happen. We'll see.
Can you tell me, again, going off track?
Yeah.
Why is it that all these billionaires are talking about space and living on Mars, and living on the moon, and space travel? Why? What's so? Apart from the fact that they want to conquer the universe, yes.
Yeah.
Why is there so much interest in?
Well, there's a lot of money in it, right? So.
Well, to live on Mars.
No. Okay. Here's how it works.
Set up a TV station or something.
Well,
be the first to have a radio, Virgin
that could
Radio.
be part of it, but if you look at the bigger picture, the space industry needs to commercialize, right? And what it hasn't been good at is actually commercializing, right? So NASA is having funding problems. They've been having funding problems for years, right? And so I think by 2024, they said they're going to put the next man on the moon, right? And if you look at when the last time they had done it,
70.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. But the most interesting is NASA was established in, I think, 59, and they went to the moon in 69. So in one decade, with that amount of technology at that time period, compared to this, it doesn't make sense. Obviously something is disconnected. A lot of it has to do with funding, right? So they need to. It was
a commitment from Kennedy, wasn't it? It said we will, before the end of the decade, we'll have men on the moon. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. And they did it.
Yeah.
And they did it
after he passed.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Because Elon Musk with his SpaceX, he's just gone into the old shelves of what NASA had worked on, and realized there were some really good patents there, really good products. Yep. And he just reused them and then bettered what they've been doing.
Yeah, and there's money to be made there because you see, NASA is they're responsible for universal air control, right? That's their large part of their mandate. but commercializing it is not their thing. Right? So they have to create the infrastructure and the opportunities and the ability for the Elon Musks of this world to commercialize the space, because there needs to be a flow of more money to enable that whole ecosystem to work. Recently there was an integration, I guess you can say, between air control and space control. So NASA is working much closer with the Air Force. They have a lot of other forms of R&D. And they have their own commercialization capabilities internally as well. So as I've learned spending time with them, commercialization is the cornerstone of what they need to do. That's their future. They need to find how to take that.
Do you know the size of NASA? How many people work there?
I don't know. No idea.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how many people work in the Russian space industry compared to NASA. Be interesting.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
And the funding, how much money each have.
Yeah.
Because the Russians are extremely smart.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They're very lean.
Yeah, and
they're
also
really,
I think now they're sharing. You know, there's some U.S. astronauts that go on the Russian rockets.
Well, they're all sharing now, because it's not commercially viable to work alone anymore.
So why should it be commercially viable to send a man on Mars?
Well,
are they going to dig gold out of there or something, or is it going to dig out some liquid we've never had before?
Well,
how would they send the liquid here? Do they have clear gases that they can pump into Earth to get better oxygen?
Well, okay, so let's go back to the example.
How's it going to save the human race, right?
Well, okay, so the answer's in the pyramid, right?
Okay.
No, it is, because the reason the enactment of the Space Act by Congress, the first point is to enhance mankind.
Okay.
So to find and discover technologies and methods to go to space, push the boundaries of science and technology that enable to move humanity forward. So you'll find that space tech is a lot deeper into your life than you would know, right? GPS, titanium teeth, the Canadian arm now used for surgeries that the human hand cannot do. The implication of space tech is so big you just don't see it or know it.
Yes.
And it's because the boundaries of technology are pushed in space. And why is that? I mean, the most amazing thing about spirituality and space for me is when you go into the unknown. There are no reference points, there are no structures, although people try to create them or invent them as they go along. But in reality, when you're out there, you're just out in the middle of nowhere.
And lots of astronauts turn into religion, don't they? They go very spiritual.
They do.
When
Yeah,
they come back.
yeah. They do. They heavily connect it, because it's like I said, when you're breaking those boundaries and you're consistently working in the unknown, and you make a discovery in the unknown, you're like, how is this possible? This wasn't created by just some guy.
It's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. Yeah, 100%. It's not a coincidence.
So maybe you don't know, maybe you do know, and I'm just going to challenge you.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Turn the clock forward 500 or 1,000 years. Do we have a population on Mars? Do we have a population on other planets?
Wow.
What are they doing? You know, what's going to happen to our planet?
There's a lady I know at NASA. If you met her, you think she's pretty crazy. But I think she's onto something. She's created a new space law. There are new laws and regulations and ethics systems designed for how to live in space. And she has a vision where people will populate and live in space. I think she's onto something. I think many people can't absorb it or understand it. It's kind of weird when you're thinking like, well, we still got so much room on Earth, right? Why would we go out there? But it's about breaking the boundaries of science and technology to advance mankind.
Yeah, but we're already worried about the environment and how things are changing and turning, and 2 generations down the line, we could be endangering the human race if we don't change the way we live
today.
life.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Incredible.
totally agree.
What I can't understand is how they take and they can be in space 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and have water, air.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It takes 9 months, I think, to get to Mars. You got to stay there 9 months and then 9 months to get back. So the psychological ability to last in a small space with limited materials, which would be almost virtually impossible to carry with you to last that long.
Yes.
Just the psychology behind sitting with the same people for 18 months.
Sure. Also, your body alters, right? Because in space, you don't need your muscles reduce in size, and
yeah.
Amazing.
One of the companies I was judging,
and there's a waiting list of people who want to be astronauts.
Yeah. No, a lot of people want to go to space. Yeah. This is commercialization, right? A lot of people go to space,
crazy.
man. A new form of tourism. So there was a company that I was judging. I called it Oyo. So they were mandated with the machines, what do you call it? The muscle machines, right? The workout machines.
Yes.
So like you would have in a gym, you'd have all these you'd have it stacked up to here with the muscle thing, and it's huge, right? And it's heavy. and they take it onto the space station would go like this.
Yeah.
So what he did is he came up with this
Friction or something.
yeah, okay, so there's layers of these discs, and each one discs have this rubber, and they all come from the middle, and then when you twist once like this, you can get 10 kilos,
Heavy,
15 kilos, and so you just keep going in the same spot. It's light as, the thing is very light, takes very little space, but you can still get the same amount of pressure required to exercise the body.
Astronauts will have to exercise certain period of time every day to make sure that they maintain their muscle.
100%. Yeah, being an astronaut is not easy. We had our own astronaut, Bob Springer. So I initiated a non-profit organization called Get to Space. It's designed to get 2 billion people to space.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, although it's not literally do that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to inspire the Arab and Muslim world to understand their contribution in science and technology to space. Their contribution is massive.
So it wasn't
massive.
like either get them there or get spaced out.
Yeah. They're already spaced out, right? Yeah. Whatever works, man. Whatever works.
Technicalities, right?
Technicalities, exactly. So it was an initiative to inspire people, and it went really, really well. I did a keynote talk in Cairo in 2015. I had 1,500 people in one talk sign up to become astronauts.
Crazy.
It's wild.
I hope you took a deposit of every one of them.
Yeah, I should have, right?
Yeah.
It was nonprofit.
Only $1,000 each. Yeah.
We crashed. And I called up the guys at the U.S. Space Foundation. I was like, I just got like 1,500 people who want to become astronauts. Like, they're like, excuse me, what? 1,500? Are you serious? I'm like, yeah. You wouldn't believe how much demand there is out here.
Yeah.
But being qualified to actually be an astronaut is a different story. You have to be so physically fit. I couldn't do it, but you need to be physically very, very fit.
Mentally, physically.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, man. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing now?
So now I'm rediscovering myself. So I'm looking at unlocking unseen possibilities and helping other companies to do that. One of the things I look at very closely is growth hacking. So it's an area I've been developing for the last year or so.
Is that another way of saying scaling up?
Scaling is part of it. So it's not necessarily that. So I had an interesting incident that I put a video on social media actually yesterday and today. So I did Google ads for my YouTube videos,
I watched that, yes.
Right, and I put hack, and then
the
stopped
adverts
me.
didn't go out,
Yeah, and they're like unethical. You're promoting unethical behavior, and so I go look at the policy and the word hack and hacking and hacks and all the derivatives of hack is there. So I call them up and they're like, hey, this is not right, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll fix it. I went through. Yeah, by the way, it takes 24 hours every time you ask something. It's crazy. So 6 days in.
Because we're an online agency, right?
You know this.
When that goes down and we have to wait 24 hours, do you know what? Clients, they're going crazy.
I know.
Because it just takes that long.
It doesn't make sense. I don't get it. But the point was that I called these guys up and I was like, listen, first off, you're selling the words. So you're ready to take my money. But you're saying no because your AI doesn't understand the context of hack. Like by natural connotation, we think hacking is a bad thing, right? But in today's pop culture term, you've got biohacking, right? We've got life hack, we've got growth hack, we've got science hacks, right? What is a hack? A hack is a shortcut.
It's a disruption.
It's a shortcut. It's a shortcut. It's a shortcut, right? Like how do I get from 1 to a million faster, cheaper, easier than I did before? That's a hack, right? A productivity hack, a body hack, right? How do, like, bulletproof coffee is an excellent example of a biohack, right? How do I stimulate my mind not using sugar but using fat as an energy source? Works awesome, right? That's a biohack. So is that unethical by nature? No, it's not. I called them and argued, and with all respect to Google, by the way, just look at both sides of the story. I'm glad that they're taking a highly responsible position because
you just don't know.
You just don't know. So I respect it, but they need to have a better system to be able to understand the context of what's actually
maybe
going
because they're so big. They are so
Yeah.
big. The numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, we have over, I think, 500 clients
Wow.
every single day paying into the Google account and social media, Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter, and so forth.
Yeah.
So can you imagine?
Wow.
Multiply that by millions.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do a customer
I agree.
relation
It is.
experience.
It is. I mean, considering that fact, they're actually doing a pretty good job when you think of the volume, but there's a lot of room for improvement. So when I made these videos, I actually tagged them in hopes that they would pick up on the hint.
Yes.
No,
So still not gone live.
They should be using Google alerts.
Would you consider changing the word?
There is no other word because growth hacking is a technical term. It's a very specific term, right? It's like life hack or
But then
biohack.
when you're using keywords and not many people are actually using that, then doesn't really matter, does it? So you can use things like shortcut or speed.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is...
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
People aren't searching for those key. I know what you're saying is important, right?
Yeah.
But then to help your business, maybe...
definitely we need to look at other things. I mean, the growth hacking community do search very specific terms, so that would be my primary audience. There could be layers around that, which I totally agree with, like growth marketing, maybe another one, right? Or growth development, or growth strategies, right? So they're all looking at the same thing, but in different things, and we probably need to get some help from you on how to broaden that.
Who are your clients? Who are your prospects? Who are you aiming? Because often when you and I spoke, I always felt that I may have been too small for you.
Yeah.
I thought because your experience is, such a large scale, governments and large organizations, I felt that maybe we're too small. So would you?
Well, my learning lesson from this is that I need clients that do $1 million a year in revenue minimum. Otherwise, I can't help them. Why? So the reason being is that if we want to implement something, you need to have the resources to do it in order to hack your growth, right? Now, I'm not saying growth hacking wouldn't work from somebody working from zero. It definitely would.
Is that they need to have that to pay your fees, or is it just that?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's your expense.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean,
just kidding.
No, definitely. No, it's part of the game, because I mean, you pay for what you get, right? I mean, there's a lot of, and that's why I publish a lot of free information. I'm publishing that free information so anyone working from zero can actually pull it off. And my clients who pay can actually see, how to go from zero to wherever him and I are having a conversation, because I need to be able to educate them as well. So it kind of hits two birds with one stone. I spend a lot of time mentoring lots of startup companies. I mean, in my career till now, I've helped startup companies raise about $100 million collectively, right? That's in the form of being an advisor, co-founder, being on their boards. And the problem is they can't afford to hire full time, yes. But I can help them shortcut so many things, and it makes my life a lot easier because I can just focus on the things I'm really good at, and they can just go with it, and I can continue with.
Can I use and abuse you now? Right now here,
who's going
to pick me, my company. So can I share with you one of my challenges?
Sure.
And then you can just What we have certain skill sets, and as we're scaling, the client is very attached to those people with those certain skill sets. And because we're a small to medium sized enterprise, I can't afford to have people trained for 6 months and then introduce them to the client. So it's very much, we get them in, we train them, introduce them to the client, okay? But what's happening is bottlenecking. As we grow, the client is very attached to their account managers. Right? So I kind of understand that we are Dariush's corner kebab shop. Although we're doing very well in the marketplace, but I'm no means a McDonald's. And so we're stuck.
You're stuck. So this has a lot to do with your systems, by the way. Okay.
Yes.
So the problem that you're talking about, McKinsey and A.T. Kearney and Bain and BC, all these guys they've been solving it for decades. How did they do it? Is institutionalizing knowledge into intellectual capital. So let me give you a practical example. So I work with you as a consultant. I have a very specific way that I've been trained on to develop the case. The case goes into a database, and then those learnings are reused, right? So the next consultant you work with, or at the same time another consultant in Australia is working on the same problem, they have access to exactly the same amount of information, and access to even giving me a call for implicit information that may require to execute on the job. Now, the trick here is, human relations element will never go away, right? The trick is, how do you document it and develop systems that enable you, that no matter who they're working with, that
there's that continuity.
There's continuity, and you can scale. Right? That's the tough part. That's the tough part.
And I guess to sell it in-house as well, because certain management, they're settled. That's all they know. To speak to the client, the same client every single day. Right? And you say to them, hey, listen, you're really good, and you can speak to a client that pays us 10 times more, but they're so attached to that client, it's very hard to let go.
That's a tough one.
So you got to sell it to the clients, and you got to sell it to your staff.
Let me divert this into a direction and give you an example that may open up something for you. So when I had my customer service team, so they would call in, and so a telescript would pop up, right? And that would be one built directly into our CRM. But the person running the call has the ability to change the script at any time. It goes into a pool, everyone can see it, and they vote on it, right? So I discover a way to speak to a client that is awesome. right? So he goes in, he makes a change, it circulates among 20 guys. We're like, this is thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, adopted, right? Boom, we gamify it, he gets rewarded for it, and our system improves, right? But it's systemized, right? So it's consistent. So one of the things we learned was the fact, and this is very, very true. So in the beginning, people would often be yelling, that's how they start. And then my people can be like, what the hell? I said, you know why they're yelling at you? Because they just had a shitty customer experience somewhere else and they're bringing their baggage with you.
Yes.
So how do we get past it? So that's when we discovered saying, no matter what your problem is, we're going to solve it for you and we will be with you to the end.
And it's not personal.
It's not personal. Yeah, exactly. Once we systemize that exact statement and we literally, we had cases where people would have problems with their credit card company and we would call on their behalf to fix the problem. Literally, and it would be documented through logs. Everything would be systemized. So next guy comes in.
Zappos do something similar, don't they? The shoe company.
Yeah.
Because people phone their call center and order pizzas and everything.
Pizzas?
And yeah, they're a shoe company. Amazon bought them for $1 billion, I think.
Right.
And they're very well known for the customer service. So,
yeah.
The helpline, you phone up and you're bored. You speak to them for 2-3 hours on the phone.
Oh, you're kidding me? I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah,
that's amazing.
and then they say like, hey, listen, just having a chat. No problem, Mr. Sabry, talk to me. And guy says, I want a pizza. Just for a moment, they'll order your pizza, and it gets delivered to your house while you're talking to them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
really. I mean that's another level, but yes. Yeah, that's where you should be. I mean,
that's how the guy sold it for $1 billion because they were well known for the customer services.
Yeah, yeah, customer service goes a long way. I mean, our customers who we would operate with like this, they would buy in folds. I mean, I remember we had one night, we had a flash promotion. We had many customers that would go for it, but forget to put the promotion code. And they get billed and they call us up, and they would they tried to blame the system and then they'd say, okay, it's my fault. We said, listen, we're going to refund you immediately and you go back, redo it. Or sorry, no, we would refund the difference. And they would be ecstatic, like they know it's their fault and we respect it, we're completely compassionate. They go buy even more, right? All we had to do was just treat them as humans, but had to be systemized. We knew when this problem was flagged the first time, that every other time we would have to find a way to recredit them because they would just forget to put the Morse code, or something would go wrong, right? I mean, whatever it is, their fault.
So what do you think is the top three biggest challenges for a small size business to scale up?
Automation, scale, and focusing on a niche. Niche is I would say niche would supersede all that. Niche times 5 is an excellent example of a niche where you go so deep. I call it pinhole to pothole, right? So pinhole is so tiny of an opportunity, but you're able to turn it into a pothole where you own a domain. And to own a domain, you got to start in a pinhole opportunity.
So in a way, find a pain in the market.
Yes. Someone's problem. Yeah. Someone's problem is so deep enough that they'd be willing to pay to have the pain taken away.
Do you still have an attachment to the product?
No. It's strange. I do in some ways, but I had so much I had some bad experiences. Let's put it like that. Painful experiences, not with my business and my product, but with the market itself. So I went to talk to 218 investors in this region. By the way, raised zero, nothing. Just it was the first time I had built a business and it had traction. It was profitable.
It's disheartening, isn't it?
I was in 37 countries. I was making money. And all I had to do was just replicate what I'm doing. But there was a barrier there where we were in such a soft business. This comes to the education part. And later on, I started meeting investors who were in the spiritual space, all based in San Francisco.
Huh.
It's funny enough, right?
Yeah.
And the conversation with these guys after I sold my business was I was like, where were you like a year ago, man? Learnings. I mean, everything happens for a reason, by the way. I mean, no regrets. This all happened. And I sold my company in 15 days. So 2.5 years, 218 investors in 15 days acquisition. It was just meant to be like that. It's just how it is.
But you detached, you let it go.
Yeah.
You don't wonder what they're doing, how the company's grown.
Exactly. You know what it is? As a personal life lesson, everything has a lifespan, right? A start and the end. And the beauty of an end is a new start. And I love new starts. I'm all about I love the blank paper approach. That's where I started. That got me to that end, and I'm going to repeat it even better and have even more fun the next time I do it.
At the moment, you're selling your consultancy services,
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you have a team, or you have access to information?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm doing is the companies I'm operating with, I operate on an advisory capacity, not on a consulting capacity. That's also one of the learnings I've had about me. So, rather than hiring me to actually do it for you, let me actually like train you how to do it, help you build the capacity so you don't actually need me. And that allows me to do what I'm best at and build my craft to go to the next step and get my next client, rather than you giving me all the shit under the sun. So I'll give you an example. So I focus on top line growth, not bottom line growth, right? Bottom line growth is like 99% of what consultants do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cutting not corner, sorry, but it could be cutting costs, finding efficiency. I mean, you can find tons of people do that, right? Top line, finding
abundance.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. But top line, 1% of what can actually change 99% of your business is where I focus. I said, you go deal with the awesome guys you deal with down there. I'm gonna find you your next big thing. That's my whole job. So just focusing on what I'm good at and getting it done.
So in a way, you are creating niche markets for your clients.
Yep, I'm helping them unlock the unseen possibilities, helping them see what they don't see, and helping them actually execute on it. Like, let's get
so how long does this process take, on average, to find out exactly what they want?
It varies. It varies. I need to get to know the client. There's so much under the hood that takes a bit of time to figure it out. But I'd say roughly 90 days. In 90 days, we can figure out, I mean, a whole bunch of things. But it does take time. This is not an overnight thing where a flash like that. I need to get to know my client. I need to get to know their business, and we figure it out.
That's amazing. So you go really deep.
You have to, yeah. You'd be surprised how many things you actually come up with. It's not about coming up with one single thing. At the end, you're going to execute on one thing and move to the next. But the amount of different opportunities that you find inside that you can unlock gives you almost a roadmap to work with. So we work with the first one, maximize it, move to the next one. And that becomes how you actually, what I call 10x growth, right? You want 10x growth. It's not coming from your bottom line, right? Cut costs by 10%, incremental growth, right? So if you're growing incrementally like 10%, okay, you accumulated over 10 years, 10% of a year, you got your tenfold back. Yes. What about getting tenfold in a year? What happened?
Why not?
Why not? It's possible. It's not an impossibility.
So let's say you help the company grow, then you realize that they may have cash flow issues, right? So you think for them and forecast that. And make sure that when those challenges come, they're geared up for it.
Exactly. We figure out cost-effective ways of putting it. So the beautiful thing about today's world, for free or very low cost, you can almost do anything. Most of my clients do not believe me when I make that statement. The minute we start engaging, they're like, where the hell did all this shit come from? How is this even possible? I said, it's called the internet. It's called the internet. I mean,
use it.
That's where we are today. All the cloud services and software as a service. I mean, every single day, somebody's solving a new problem at a different level, and they're starting for free or very cheap. It's very straightforward. Start using it. Use it and abuse it.
As a sales consultant, one of the most common things I used to get is, well, Dariush, you never sold ships before, right? So how are you going to help my shipping company sell ships? But what I found was, it actually doesn't matter about the product.
Yeah.
Right? The person who's buying goes through the same buying process in their head.
Exactly.
Right? Do you find it the same in business?
Exactly.
What do you know about software companies? Well, a lot. Or what do you know about car manufacturing? You go, nothing, but the system and the process are the same, right?
Yep.
Would you agree?
I totally agree. Jeff Bezos he framed it in a very good interview where he said, where domain expertise and fresh thinking come together, right? So he said usually what happens when he has guys with super deep domain expertise, they usually cannot think very fresh, which you get that comment. Well, what do you know about shipping companies, right? But when you have a guy that's got domain expertise plus fresh thinking, so it's either two guys or one guy. If you get one guy and one, you're lucky, huh? But if you get two guys that can gel together, one with deep domain and another guy with fresh thinking, that's when you get that spark. And that's what Jeff Bezos is looking for.
It's kind of funny because my company really grew when my son joined. And the reason I say that, because I'm a hunter.
Yep.
So when you say 90 days with a client, I'm like, I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
Right? Get me a knife, I want to cut my wrist.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I get bored, I get frustrated, and we're going to talk about accountability as well.
Yeah.
But my son, he's a farmer.
Yep.
Right? So I hunt the clients.
Yep.
I sign them up, never have to see them again. They have my number, but they know I'm not going to account manage them.
Yeah.
Okay, so in a way, he supports them, and they love him. His department looks after them, and they stay.
Yep.
And that's why we worked.
Yep.
Because we get the clients, and he takes care of them.
That's exactly. There's a great book about this. I think it's called The Founder's Dilemma. I don't know if you've read it, which is King and Cash. So me and my co-founders always use that. So we would flip.
Founder's Dilemma.
Founder's Dilemma. So King is the guy who controls process, and Cash is the guy who's always looking at money, right?
That's interesting.
So we would flip, right? I'd say, okay, in the next quarter, you're Cash, I'm King, right? All he talks about is just money. And all I talk about is process control, and we flip accordingly because there are times when we have to refresh one another. But if I'm talking cash and process at the same time, it doesn't work very well. You need to flip back and forth or have one. So like you rightly pointed out, or what Jeff Bezos is saying, you need a nice mix of people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So part of his skill, obviously been a visionary, because there was loads of online retailers and still are.
Yep. Yeah.
But because he just simplified, he understood business, right?
Yeah.
That's what's made him so rich, successful.
Think his secret is in one of his very first interviews ever, when he was asked why books, because he sold anything. He's like, so he started talking about the characteristics of the book market, where it's highly diversified, there's always demand, there's always something new coming out, and then there's a lot of change that takes place, so it means there's always money to be made. And books were in those stages were inventory, not on demand, right? And that's what he published on demand, made it electronic. So as he learned about that category, he said that gave me the ability to basically amplify across the whole e-commerce world. And he strategically chosen books for a reason. It wasn't something
coincidence.
Random.
Yeah,
it wasn't coincidence.
I like reading books.
Yeah.
Let's open up a bookstore.
Yeah, it's just Google his very first interview ever. It's on YouTube. You'll see the whole rationale openly.
And it was all customer service based, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just look. I think when he has meetings, he has an empty seat all the time around the boardroom, and he says that's the customer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when they're having a meeting, they always have to focus. The person who's not there, that's the customer.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
make customer number one. Amazing.
Yeah.
And no wonder he's the richest man on the planet, right?
Yeah. He's doing amazing things. I mean, he's inspiring because he started in a time and generation that I can associate with, which was in the 90s. And I guess the golden era of the 90s. And what I love about the 90s is a lot of the innovations you see today were actually created and invented then. And so things like the MP3, IoT, artificial intelligence, of course, dates back much further than that. But it's when it started to roost or come out was in that time, purely because of the internet. And today, when you see the popularization of blockchain and all these things, they go way back into the 90s, right? The MP3 is a beautiful story. I don't know if you know how the MP3 was actually created, but
no idea.
We used to think it's like magic, right? We'd have a WAV file that was like 50 megabytes, and then you'd have for 1 megabyte an MP3, and they sound exactly the same. But the secret behind it was that the WAV file was so advanced that it was taking on so much information that the ear cannot actually process. So they found what it was, got rid of all of it, made a new protocol, made an MP3, and we thought it was a beautifully well compressed, same quality song.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and that kicked open peer to peer. If it wasn't for the MP3, peer to peer would not exist.
So where do you think? Because I know you're a visionary. Where do you think the industry is going? And what's the next big thing? What's the next 2 or 3 big things that we should look out for?
Sure. So the biggest thing in my world is artificial intelligence. So the example I gave of Google, that contextuality aspect, the fuzzy area, there's a lot of money to be made in that to solve those types of problems. The next part is autonomy, right? The autonomy of cars, the autonomy of airplanes, the autonomy of things that work around us, where we don't need to be part of the process anymore. Okay. The other big underlying change I see is that we're not going to own the assets we own today. So we're not going to own a car, not going to own a house, probably not going to own this furniture. It's just going to be on a per usage basis. That's going to liberate people. It liberates me when I use an Uber. I've never used an Airbnb, but when I use other tools the likes of that just allow me to use on demand and just pay for what I need. But it's already very cost effective, right? So I don't need to go save all this money up to go buy this big asset anymore.
And you're stuck with it.
Yeah, and
you got the freedom to.
Yeah. And then depreciates, and then you got to find someone to buy it, and you got to maintain it. Forget it. That's not the future. You're not going to own any of this stuff.
I was watching an interview with Elon Musk, and he painted a really scary future with artificial intelligence.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of
very scary. And he was saying, like, what if in 50, 60 years, not even that, the computers realize that we are useless. Humans are useless. Yeah, and we shit in the planet, we ruin everything, we cause wars, we kill each other. What's the point of humans? Right?
It's probably very true.
It's true, isn't it? Like, computers decide that we are useless. Yeah. Right? See,
the thing about artificial intelligence, it makes an objective decision, right?
Exactly.
So when subjectivity gets in the middle, at the end, it's going to have to go to one side of the spectrum.
Yes,
right?
Black or white.
It's black or white, right? Because otherwise it cannot execute a process.
So how do we plant that default, that the whole thing stops when they say like kill humans
Well, see,
or
so
put
this
this
comes
poison
to,
in the water. That
See, this comes to a very sensitive topic, which is artificial intelligence ethics, AI
Yes.
ethics, okay? And the intentions of the individual who created will be that AI, right? So if my intentions are really bad and to destroy everything, that AI is going to do exactly that. Because a machine can only do what I tell it to do, right? If my intentions are
yeah, but
good.
what if the machine is self-thinking?
They will eventually reach
Self-improving?
that. That's where this idea of singularity comes into play, right? Where machines will completely operate on their own. Believe me, we're getting closer to it. It's moving a lot
Well,
faster, but
I
we're
see
still
my
far away.
kid playing computer games, and the scenes and scenarios that the computer decides how it's going to look, because it's impossible for a programmer to design every single little scenario that happens.
Yeah.
Right. So when he jumps off a cliff and goes out of the car, the computer is creating that scenario, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It really is incredible. So it's happening right now in front of our eyes.
Gaming, by the way, is an area. If you want to learn a lot about the future, gaming is one of the places to actually do that. Gaming is one. I had a client in gaming. It's about around the time you and I met, and I learned a lot about the gaming industry. And it's
huge,
bigger than
right?
entertainment.
It
It's
is,
one of the
it
biggest
is.
in the world. But you just don't.
They
feel
gross
it.
more than movies.
Yeah. They're massive. The problem when I started in that with this client was that I'm not a gamer, nor did I understand it. I had to hire people that between the ages of sort of 9 to 19 in that range to help me actually access and understand that market. It was a phenomenal learning experience. But if you want to learn a lot of things like simulation, flight simulation for actual like ANSPs, air navigation service providers, all originally from gaming. Literally, they all started as games, and that is what keeps us safe in the air today.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So when somebody says artificial intelligence, I immediately think expensive.
Yeah.
Right. So for entrepreneurs, where do you think is the next big thing?
In artificial intelligence?
Well, I think if I was going to do some artificial intelligence, I need to hire 50 programmers, right?
Yeah.
And I can't afford that because
Yeah.
I'm not that profitable. A guy sitting in his bedroom, can he do something with artificial intelligence on his own? Like, when Bill Gates started off, there was 2 guys, or Apple started off, there was 2 guys.
Yep.
Is that still possible with AI?
It is. So okay. I did start this company, but it failed. So it was called Launchpad. It was one of the first generation
right.
AI.
Congratulations.
Company. Yeah.
Right. So you learned a lot from that.
I learned from it. So we raised 9 million, $1 million on my own, and 8 million from another investor, and we blew it in 9 months, right? And it was at the .bomb time, so it was very difficult to raise the next amount. Great product, died out, but the market wasn't ready for AI. So we learned a lot. Now the reason it cost us $9 million was we had to create everything from scratch. Today, there's a lot of tools already built.
Wow.
And one of the best examples is an example that is very close to you may not realize. Do you use Google Sheets?
I believe we do. Right?
You use Google Sheets, right? So in the very bottom right, you got something called Explore. I think it's highly mislabeled, but drop all your data in there, click on Explore, and it'll already do all the thinking and formulation of how to look at the data you're already doing. And that is just one very simple example of machine learning and going into your data and just figuring out for it. Before, you would go create all the formulas and structure the report. This would just click Explore and does it for you. This is a perfect example of something that you have
Available
access
now.
to for free right now. You can do it right now. Yeah,
That's amazing.
that's amazing. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we go forwards 5 years. We're sitting here, 2024, and what kind of a conversation are we having? We look back and say, we
Well,
went
hopefully
5 years ago. What happened now? Tell me, where have you gone?
Well, hopefully we'll both be retired by then, don't you think?
Well, no, I never want to retire, right? Because I enjoy what I do. Right? I associate death with retirement. So
I'll tell you. Okay, I'll tell you a funny joke about this. So, are you familiar with something called universal income?
no.
Okay, so universal income is a concept that's actually been tested long ago and is being retested to reform society.
Okay.
So when artificial intelligence comes in and takes over many jobs, you're gonna have a lot of jobless people. So how are they gonna have money? So they create universal income. You get a certain amount of money every month that you would use and stay home. So what would happen is
Well, really, do you think, because
Yeah.
they said that when factories came, right? But people still found jobs, right?
well, there'll be a reformation of the type of jobs required. So that's a whole different conversation. But
So when
UBI,
people go into services, because I noticed
Yeah.
in the UK, we were discussing this yesterday, manufacturing is dying,
Yeah.
and people are in the financial service, in the service business, right?
Yep.
City centres are turning into coffee shops and restaurants, and
Yep.
so maybe jobs will turn. I think there'll always be employment. I think there'll be a change. There'll be a change. It'll take time to adjust.
Definitely. I mean, I think there's definitely always an opportunity, but many governments are testing UBI right now.
Incredible.
Now the joke behind it is that this is just having fun here, right? So obviously the people who are gonna go on UBI are people who would be less competent, and those who'd be off of it would be more competent. So my friend once says, "Is like, oh, all right, so we can make more money." I said, "No, I'm gonna be with the guys that sit home and take their money, because I'm not stupid enough to keep working if I get free money."
Yeah, knowing you knew what you're gonna do. You're gonna take a percentage of each and invest it for them. Yeah, that's quite scary though. Vegetating at home, right? Because at the moment you don't have to go out much. You can click, your food gets delivered. Click, your grocery gets delivered. Yeah, you don't have to actually do anything. Your personal trainer comes to your home.
I'll share another funny joke, but this one's a little bit spicy. So
go spicy.
Go spicy.
Yeah, we were effing, but actually, I think it's the 7 o'clock thing, because by 7 o'clock yesterday we were effing and blinding.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
Started really clean, and then it just.
So we'll have some fun with this one. So the online grocery market is exploding, right? So I have a startup company I've been mentoring, playing this space, and then all of a sudden on one weekend, Noon, Souk, and Carrefour all launch, right? So I get an ad from Carrefour saying we'll deliver in 2 hours. So I look at this and I say, I'm going to social media this. I say, well, what am I going to order that I need in 2 hours? So I order a box of condoms, and I said, guys, let's see how fast they can deliver.
Otherwise, I'll lose my opportunity.
And people were messaging me like, don't do it. You're going to get in trouble. My wife was like, are you nuts? I'm like, let's just see if they actually get a box of condoms here in 2 hours. No, they all stopped me. I got so much heat that weekend, but we had so much fun with it, because the guys that I know in this business were sharing it with everybody, right? As a joke.
That's funny.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and can you make sure the expiration date is over 2 hours, right? Like your groceries. One of the things about ordering groceries online, I always thought when I go into the supermarket, I pick up the apple and I feel it, touch it, and the cucumbers, and not for any sexual reasons, just to make sure that they're ripe.
Yep.
One of my worries is that when they deliver, the guy's just picking anything and putting it in a bag and delivering it to your doorstep. Yeah. And I don't want the driver comes, check every one and say, is it okay or something. That's
produce is a bit difficult. I mean, my wife is the type of person that wants to go buy all our food from A to Z. Exactly. But I would find things like I can get all the water and perishable items online, which doesn't make sense, because she's always complaining about her back. I'm like,
carrying stuff.
It's free delivery.
So you mix it.
Yeah, I mean, I try to, but my wife still insists not to. She still has to buy all of it from the grocery store. It's just not logical. Let's just save the time, money. The produce, which you need to actually, evaluate, go do it. Just focus on that. Yes. But for her, it's a ritual.
Habits, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 5 years down the line, we look back and say, what are you doing now, Nader? How did it go? How was the last 5 years? What would you say? Where are you 5 years down the line?
I think the next 5 years are going to be very difficult.
I know you won't retire, so this.
No. I'll keep going. But if the opportunity came to have a lot of money,
isn't life difficult? Life, people think like in my opinion, they look at Arabs Got Talent or British X Factor or whatever, and they see this quick rich thing. You can sing or you can dance and you quickly get famous and rich, or the Kardashians.
But that's what everybody wants, and that's not true.
But it's not true, because 99.9999% of people graft, right?
Yeah.
So, to me, life is difficult.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You just have to be a gladiator, right? You have to rise to deal with the difficulties. So if you wake up in the morning thinking life is difficult, everything else is going to be easy, right?
Yeah.
Because you're prepared for challenges.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's all about the attitude of how you go around challenges. To me, challenges wake me up and keep me alive.
Because you're an optimist. Because you're motivated.
By nature, optimist. Exactly. And people get confused because they think, well, you're an optimist, but you're saying the world is challenged and in trouble. I'm like, well, yeah, but that's the great part. It means there are opportunities. That's what this is about, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm really worried about the next generation. My son and the younger people in that generation. They're not getting the level of education that we were getting in the sense of quality. They're not ready for the future, right? So my son, he does some YouTube videos I'll share with you, and he's like, I want to be a YouTube creator, but his school doesn't prepare him for it, right? Why aren't they? Yeah. Why aren't they? They should be preparing.
Because the teachers are actually saying that you shouldn't be on that. Exactly. And society at the moment is saying, hey, you're not communicating because you're on your phone all the time. Exactly. You're on your iPad all the time. But hang on, the future is that, right?
You got it.
So we're kind of living in denial. But I think it's ignorance, isn't it? That people don't realize that they can still communicate and be on their laptops.
They can. I mean,
I remember watching TV and my mom used to shout to me and say, hang on, I've asked you to do the same thing 10 times and you just glued to the TV. Yeah. I'm worried about the generation because they're all glued to the TV. Yeah. True?
Yeah, I agree. The TV taught us many things, by the way. I mean, these are all tools, by the way. I mean, I encourage my son, if you're going to watch YouTube, okay, watch it. But watch something productive. Let's watch something that can actually enhance your life. But you know, they're at that maturity level where it's like they just want to watch all these famous guys, these get-rich-quick guys. I mean, he just wants to get rich quick. They all believe it's possible.
Funny story.
Yeah.
I had a talk a couple of weeks ago, and I purposely put all my clothes in the lounge so I can sneak out the bedroom without waking everybody up, put my clothes on and sneak out to go to the talk. So I got up ridiculously early and I sneaked out, and my son, my 11-year-old son, was watching TV, so he had a earlier awakening. So he says, "Hi Dad." I was like, "Oh, what the hell is going on?" Because I'm watching this YouTuber. I looked at my watch and I had 20 minutes spare. And I looked at this guy, he's got like big earrings, got things through his nose and his blue hair, and he's commentating a game. So he's playing a game and he's just talking, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, my son's just vegetating.
Yeah.
So I thought, no, hang on a second, I'm going to sit him down, I'm going to give him a pitch. Right? For 20 minutes, I sat down and I said, listen, what your dad does, goes to work, builds an organization, this is work. Not what this idiot's doing on TV,
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. So he's like going, okay, Dad, rolling his eyes, okay, Dad, when are you going to go so I can carry on watching?
Yeah.
And I noticed that throughout the week he was coming out saying, Dad, can I download this game? And I was like, how much is it? $3? Yeah, okay, $2. He must have done $20 worth of sales because of this guy.
Oh, wow.
He's playing the games and he's influencing.
Yeah.
He's influencing. He's not selling the game, he's playing, and by my son enjoying it, he's deciding to buy it.
Wow.
So he's coming and pitching me. So I taught him the right way to live and how the world should be. So I said, who the hell is this guy? And he gave me his name. So I got in the car and I thought, I'll just Google him. The guy earned $28 million last year.
Whoa.
And there's me telling my son to be like me when the knobhead, the moron sitting in his lounge, actually $18 million last year.
Wow.
A YouTuber. And I went to the second guy, and it was even weirder than this guy, and he earned $17 million in a year. Sitting in the lounge with a camera on their face playing Minecraft.
Wow. Gaming is a big business, but I agree with you.
The second one was a fashion influencer.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what have I just done? I taught my son how to go into factory working, doing cotton, whatever it was, when there's people that are earning more money sitting at home playing games.
It's amazing.
And I felt terrible. I felt like going back and give him a hug and say, forget what Dad said for the last 20 minutes.
But the more behind the story is that you need to build the work ethic inside them, regardless of which direction they take, because there's no free lunch. There's no such thing as just working smart. You need to work smart and work hard.
And if they're spoiled, they can't take the heat, right?
No. Yeah, their tolerance levels are very low. Yeah.
So it's a fine balance, using technology, teaching them to be tough, taking the knockbacks, dust yourself down, get up and... So in 5 years...
5 years. It's gonna be a tough time. It's gonna be a tough time.
Forgetting the tough time,
yeah.
What's gonna happen to you and your business? Will you have another startup or a number of other startups yourself? Or
I'm gonna help as many startups as I can that I believe can change the future by me helping them to execute what they think they can.
Do you forgetting investing in it, because your time is more valuable than the money, right? So do you actually become partners to some of those? Like, for instance, if I had a business, and I'm thinking of a few right now, I said to you, Nader, I'll give you a certain percentage of this business, let's scale it up together, I'll do everything, but under your guidance. Is that something that you may be interested in?
It depends. I mean, it depends on how exitable. So that has to be a highly exitable business within a time frame for that to work. That's where a lot of people kind of lose their...
Because the business becomes just a lifestyle, right? Doesn't become an exitable.
Yeah, exactly. If so, there was a company based out of Toronto, which is an excellent example of this. Okay, and there was a group of, I think, 30 investors they pitched to here. They're in the gaming business. They're basically the Netflix of gaming. Unfortunately, I don't remember their name, but they had an exclusive contract with Mr. Bean, and they have tons of content on there. So I think $2.99 a month, and you get access to all this content. But here's the interesting part: they're trading on the OTC and the Toronto Stock Exchange over the counter, and here they are pitching for, I think it was $1 million or $2 million, and the investors in this region were like, they didn't get a penny because these guys were like telling me like because it was a group discussion to decide whether to move forward or not. So They're like, it's too competitive. They don't have enough games. Mr. Bean is only just one of the ones that they have. And so I said, but they're highly exitable, and they've got liquidity access that none of the other companies we're looking at have. And all you got to do is just pump more into it to do what they're actually going to scale.
Yes.
And you have an exit in a year or two.
And did it happen?
No, I mean, they didn't get it.
They didn't get it.
Right? And some guys would say, well, OTC is basically over the counter, like it's just penny stock. And I said, yes, but as they get bigger, they become to the big board, right? That's why they're raising money. But once you get the big board, you can exit. That's where the money is made.
So how are they doing now? Are they trading and they're profitable?
I don't know. I didn't follow up with them. So this is an investor group that I was a member of, where we would evaluate different. They invited me for a few of them to get inputs from me and see. And I wanted to get a feel of what kind of deal flow these guys were getting. So they were getting some pretty interesting companies, by the way. But there was a disconnect between the entrepreneur and investors. Yeah.
So how do you find new prospects? New partners?
Networking.
And I guess people approach you. Right?
Yeah. I used to spend, I wish I can do more of it, but I used to spend a lot of time at a lot of the accelerators, incubators. Entrepreneurs are like a tribe, right? Like once you know one nutcase, he's connected to another 15 nutcases who all want to just go all nuts, right? When entrepreneurs get together, you can stay up till 5 a.m., right? We can sit here till 5 a.m. doing this, man. Just having fun,
never get
right?
anywhere.
Yeah, never get anywhere, but you're having a lot of fun. Then the next day you wake up, I'm like, shit, I got to execute something. Then
But
you
I'm inspired.
You get inspired, you start executing.
I'm not such an idiot after all.
Right? Something can actually happen, right? So it's a very different world. Like when I had an interesting keynote that I did in London in March, and it was to institutional investors who had an interest in startup companies, which was very unique. And the problem is the mindset. So these guys work with highly structured $100 million plus amounts of money, and here they are looking at startup companies, right? And they want to wrap their minds around this world because they don't know how to tap into AI, blockchain, data analytics, IoT, and augmented reality. So those are kind of the 5 headlines where I see the future, just to answer your question. And the startup companies are the ones who are driving these big trends. So I was basically mandated to give a 1-hour keynote to all these institutional investors, how to change their minds from thinking this big to looking at opportunities this small that potentially can become bigger than what they're already doing. But the they function very differently. The mindset is.
And some of them are young people, right? It's not like they're all old, is it?
It's not that.
It's the conditioning that had from.
The conditioning, yeah. So it's not like someone is smarter than someone else. It has nothing to do with that. They're designed to take risk in a very different way, right? And I learned this lesson in many hard ways. So I would partner with people who sound great on paper, but when it comes to an actual execution decision in a hard circumstances, they fail. Right? They just cannot make those hard decisions. They're not. Yeah, they just can't. They get uncomfortable because they're looking for that infrastructure they had before, right? So when you have like $100 million fund and it's other people's money and you get paid a certain percentage on doing that, and you can have a few mess ups here, but overall it seems to work. It's a little bit more cushy.
Did you find after you did the 1-hour talk? Did they come to you? Did they call you afterwards?
Yeah, many did.
Can you please? Nader, just help me out a little.
Yeah. No. Many of them were very blunt and open. I mean, one guy came to me and said, "We're trying to use AI inside the fund itself." And I was like, "Wow, man! Can you open up and share a case with me? I'd love to know more." He's like, "It's very rudimentary," and it was very basic. But he said, "But we have a keen interest to put this tech to the whole fund. I mean, we see our fund going back to your question. We see this mega $1 billion fund being run by AI. We don't need any fund managers anymore. It's possible."
Yeah, I'm signing my own death warrant. One more question. I hope you've enjoyed this
has been
chat.
Great.
The fireside chat. Blockchain, I don't get it.
Most people don't.
Do you?
On a rudimentary level, yes, I can explain to you in very simple ways.
This is what I know.
Yeah.
Central banks of each country control this piece of paper.
Yeah.
Before it was based on gold.
Yep.
Now they don't have enough gold to cover the notes out there, so it's a promise.
Yep.
True?
Yep.
Money exchanges control us, where we exchange money from here to euros to.
Exactly. Yep.
So anyone, like a government, online can open up a bank and supply of money chain.
Of course, right? Currency. Yeah.
A currency.
Yeah.
And this currency can be exchanged without any barriers.
Yep.
Is that what blockchain is?
No. this is an
Totally wrong.
So this is an add-on to blockchain. Blockchain enables it. So they're two different things. Cryptocurrency, blockchain are two different things.
All right.
Blockchain is a technology that basically it's a hyperledger. Hyperledger means I enter a transaction and it cannot be corrupted and it's kept in a place that it stays there forever.
So it can be monitored and it can be tracked, everything forever.
Exactly. It's almost, it removes the idea of auditors, by the way, because an auditor goes back to check, right? And so the world of auditing is going to completely change because of this. Now,
but then at the beginning of the transaction, there's some physical money, right?
Well, anything can go in the blockchain, so it doesn't have to be necessarily currency. But the problem with currency is double entry, and so blockchain solved the double entry problem. That's why it became central to cryptocurrency. I mean, it's because of Bitcoin. The founder of Bitcoin, I can't remember his name.
Japanese guy.
Yeah, Japanese guy. It's because of him that this happened. So blockchain existed before this, by the way. This is what I'm talking about. A lot of stuff. Cryptocurrency existed before this, by the way. But the reason cryptocurrency took off, and a lot of people can't understand it, it's get rich quick guys who were able to sell something that no one understood, but they saw a lot of money coming into it. And
the sizzle.
Yeah,
they sold the sizzle. People got excited. Didn't know what the hell they were buying into, but it's just going up.
I wish I had the chart that I use in my keynote to show you how cryptocurrencies in 2019 are equivalent to where they were in 2017. So they literally went like this, and they're back to here.
I could have, honestly, I'm not joking. I was sitting in Starbucks in Mall of Emirates about 3 years ago, and I looked at blockchain, and it was Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I could have got for about $175.
Yeah.
And I was like, should I buy 3?
Yeah.
If it goes down $600, $700.
Funny enough, I mean, I actually bought for the purpose of actually testing it out. I wanted to see the full cycle, and the truth was I couldn't exit it, so I was able to buy it easily.
How much did you buy it?
I bought, I think I bought about $300-400 worth. Sorry, it was $300-400 per coin, and I bought about $1,200 worth, right?
So yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I'm even when it's gone to the shits, I'm still up, right?
Yeah.
But I cannot exit it.
Why?
So I have it in Coinbase, which is one of the major exchanges. Okay. So the word exchange in that world is misleading because there's an exchange that does trade, and an exchange that actually has the funds like a normal exchange. So when I go to an Ansari exchange or any other
they have the funds to give you.
Exactly. Thank you very much. They actually have the funds, so they're not trading. So what they do is they find you and me, and they match us up. And then,
right now, there's no buyers for it?
The liquidity. Yeah, the liquidity. There's a huge liquidity.
Although it's going up in price right now, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Crazy.
See, the genius behind Bitcoin is it has a finite amount, and only a finite amount that can be released within a period of time, and it stops, I think, in 2021 or 2020.
Oh, really? So it's limited.
Yeah. Just like gold. That's why it's the gold standard cryptocurrency. So the value of it by nature will go up. Some people predicted $500,000 to $1 million per crypto per Bitcoin. So maybe I am lucky and blessed that I can't actually exit it. But I bought some other coins, by the way, like Dash and
I got Ethers or something.
Yeah, and then I had an incident in Canada where I had to sell them black market. I don't know why. I don't think it's fair to call it black market, but it's called local coin, where they matched me up again with someone. So found some guy. His credentials were he had like something like 15 Bitcoin ATMs throughout Canada, and I was actually able to find them. So this guy looked pretty credible. I send him my coins, waiting for my money. I don't get my money.
You are kidding.
Yeah, he ran off with it, and then I call up the local FBI, the RCMP. I file a case against them. They don't know what the hell I'm talking about. They're like, well, this whole thing just sounds illegal. I'm like, well, it's not illegal, but it is fraud because he's taking money for something he hasn't delivered, so it's fraud. But they've been like, but a currency? Like, it just, the guys were boggled.
Yeah.
The point is they picked up the phone. I was like, hey man, you owe this guy some, went back to basics. You owe this guy some money. We can see it. I showed them the transaction. You need to pay. He came up with all kinds of techniques. They said, listen, we'll give you 48 hours. You either get it or you don't. He paid because he had no choice. But
paid you back what he owed you, right?
Yeah.
He gave the coins back.
Yeah. Gave me the coins back. Yeah.
And now you got some more coins that you can't get rid of.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So your piggy bank is full.
It's full. Very full.
Yeah.
So HSBC actually was about to stop my account while I was doing this, and so my relationship manager,
it was fraudulent.
Well, they have a policy against cryptocurrency at that time. I don't know if it's changed. So my relationship manager calls me up and says, "Dude, if you do one more transaction, we're shutting you down." So he's a friend of mine, and he's like, "What are you doing?" Because he was curious. I said, "Honestly, man, I'm testing this thing out. I mean, the transactions are so small. $1,200. You're gonna stop me on $1,200? Shit, I shouldn't be banking with you at all." Right? You're not worth it.
Small-minded
small amount of money, man. We're just testing it. He's like, "But what are you testing?" And I said, "I'm just testing the whole cycle from acquisition to selling it, and what the process and the cost. I mean, 3.9% to get in, There's roughly 1% in the middle for the people that do the mining or whatever it is, and there was another to find another exchange goal to take another 3%. The cost is very high. But you know what I did? As I ended up investing in Visa because of this learning. You know why? Because they conduct the most transactions in the world, and they have excess capacity to do it. They can flip the switch.
On or off flow.
And they become the biggest blockchain company in the world. And the other thing about Visa that you probably don't know, they're probably one of the most visionary companies. They used to do big data analytics in the 80s without all the tools we have today. So when
the information that they have.
Exactly. So
access to all these billions of people.
So I just put my money behind that.
Wow. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's my $250.
Yeah.
Done. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's been a pleasure seeing you. Thank you so much. Now, if anybody listening to this wants to get hold of you,
sure.
How do they do that?
So you can go to my website, which is www.nadersabry.com, which is Nader Sabry SABRY.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram, which is _ and then again my full name, Nader Sabry Nader SABRY, and that's where I'm most active. And YouTube, you just
we're going to put this as text on our video as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Great. It's an absolute pleasure. And let's connect more often, right? Because I have some ideas. I want to...
We need to catch up, man. It's been a while. We need to do a 5 a.m. Well, from now till 5 a.m.
To 5 a.m.,
but,
yeah.
You know, I don't
Make
know
it a Thursday night.
Yeah,
Make it a Thursday night. Done.
Exactly.
An honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nader.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you. Bye, everyone.